Hello everyone, my name is Purple Georgia, and today we're going to spend another fine 30 minutes discussing Prometheus. Prometheus in Greek mythology was one of the titans and supreme god of fire. Common belief is... Oh wait, wrong text. Prometheus, sci-fi movie that came out in 2013, and the movie that is actually a prequel to the very first Aliens. Both were directed by Ridley Scott, and if you've seen my other Alien videos, you know I kinda love and hate Ridley Scott. Like, I do think he's talented when it comes to setting up the atmosphere, all of the cinematic shots he has in his movies. I love it personally. But when it comes to writing the script, because after watching Alien Covenant and Prometheus, which both are prequel to Alien, I'm starting to understand that, bruh, he just doesn't care about the continuity of the timeline at all. Like, the guy clearly has some kind of vision, I'm assuming, but he just doesn't care about second opinions. Like, did you know there was supposed to be an Alien sequel directed by Neil Blomkamp? But his movie never came out because Ridley Scott was convincing studio executives that his vision would be better for the franchise. And this is only one of the few undercover stories that we actually know. I mean, who knows, maybe Alien Romulus took so long to make because of Ridley Scott too. On top of that, we have him saying that after the first Alien that he worked on, he didn't even see any of the sequels because he thinks there might be crap. So basically, Ridley Scott is trying to make a puzzle piece to fix a different set, which he has not seen, and he doesn't even know how that piece is supposed to look like. And the first puzzle piece he made was Prometheus. Movie so confusing, even a lot of people under my videos didn't know it was a prequel to Alien. Alright, let's go over the movie so I can point out all the inconsistencies and explain why this movie just breaks timeline even more. The movie starts with yet another ship in space, which, not gonna lie, looks good. Like I said, cinematic shots done by Ridley Scott are top tier. While the ship is flying to its destination, the crew is sound asleep, and the only mindless android is walking around, checks on the progress, for some reason to watch his movies. He also for some reason plays basketball and, I don't know, plans to free mutants from human tyranny. Oh wait, wrong text again. The thing is, in Alien Covenant, it is explained that the version of David, which is this android, is common for breaking because their AI tends to go crazy. The thing is, at this point in timeline, nobody really knows it, but keep it in mind because it's gonna be an important plot point later. While I was yapping, apparently the spaceship reached its destination and caused everybody to wake up. We see a bunch of familiar faces if you more or less use social media because unfortunately or luckily, a bunch of people on this cast are really high-paid actors. Everybody started to wake up from hibernation and eat up and throw up. And by the way, since everybody looked kind of miserable, like they're in high school at 7 AM in the morning, I assume that the space travel is more or less common in this world. Because, well, everything I saw seemed like a routine to those characters. But no, turns out this is one of the few first space travels in history, and only billionaires can afford it. And the best part, nobody in the crew knows the actual reason for this space travel. Like, they're all here because they got paid, but they don't really know why. If you're also wondering why, conveniently this science lady is gonna explain everything using really high-tech Rubik's Cube. With that, she pulls up several photos of several cave paintings, and apparently this is the whole reason for their travel, because on each of these paintings is painting of certain stars. Apparently there's no way cavemen could have even known of these stars. Bruh, I'm explaining it like that, but literally only a fool didn't nitpick this scene, because yes, all of these people fly to the nearby solar system, which is freaking billion light years away or something from Earth. And their whole reason for flying there is, yet again, fate. Yeah, okay, I forgot Ridley Scott keeps inserting biblical and meaningful references into his films, bruh. Basically, in the opening scene of the movie, these two scientists, who are husband and wife, found out a cave painting where cavemen point at the stars. Of course, that can only mean one thing, that the extraterrestrial bodies were visiting Earth, because there's no way cavemen could have just drawn something stupid on the wall. And okay, you know what? Story time, because I managed to find a conspiracy theory that kinda sounds really similar to the script of this movie. The funniest part, I found it while scrolling TikTok. And in one of those videos, TikToker was recapping a story that apparently happened to some farmers in 70s. I'm not gonna look it up right now, because apparently it's more or less famous. Basically, there were two people who were trying to convince everyone they were abducted by aliens, but nobody actually believed them. To prove their point, they draw a star map, which they supposedly saw on the UFO while they were abducted. Nobody still believed them because nobody was able to find any mention of those stars on any existing star maps until years later when space was more explored and those stars were in fact found. And basically now conspiracy theorists try to use that story as a proof that UFO actually exists because bruh, there's no way those guys could have known about those stars back in 70s. Now, why am I telling you all this schizophrenic story? Well, because there's literally so many stars in the Milky Way, we don't even see half of them. Like look, this is the amount of stars we can visibly see, and this is the actual amount of stars that exist out there. And we still keep finding more. So if you have enough free time, you can probably draw a couple of dots on a piece of paper, and then with enough luck, you'll probably find a set of stars that matches it. And now you're telling me these guys spend years of their life and probably gajillion dollars to travel to a different set of planets just for the cave paintings they found on the wall? The funniest part, even the characters in the movie say this is really stupid. But the answer of those scientists, it's fate. They just believe it to be true. Bruh, I hope all important studies were made that way. Like, imagine people talk to Einstein or Stephen Hawking, and they ask them about their discoveries, and the answer from them is like, well, I mean, I wasn't sure if it's actually gonna work, but I believed it. Anyhow, woman scientist, whose name is, by the way, Elizabeth Shaw, and who's pretty much the main character of the film, and her husband, after the presentation are taken to the boss lady, who basically explains that Valen, who created Valen Corporation, spoiler, really likes to spend money on some random shit, because he believed, and was religious and all that stuff. She also mentions that if they do in fact find aliens, they could not contact with them, and she basically should be in charge of everything, which apparently she is in charge of everything. After that, they're landing to the planet itself. They found some unusual round mountains, because on alien planets, mountains supposed to look like they look on Earth, right? And also, yeah, again, for some reason, they had to land so far away from the mountain itself, which is like their destination, so they had to drive on cars from the spaceship to the mountain. Like, couldn't you just land closer? Characters scan the mountain with their super scanners and realize that it's hollow, therefore there's a lot of caves inside. And when they go to those caves, they right away take off their helmets. Bruh, I can understand one person did it, he's impulsive, okay, whatever. But why did everybody follow his decision? I remind you, you geniuses are on a different planet. You have no idea what kind of viruses there can be. You didn't even check the air or anything. On top of that, you guys yourself said that the air outside of those caves is poisonous to people. So why have such an immense risk? Bruh, they even have a scene literally like a minute later when David touches the walls and he finds some like unknown slime or web, which probably should be a good call to put the helmets back on, but they don't do that. David, however, keeps touching the slimy walls and somehow activates the hologram or something. Apparently it's a recap of the last thing that happened on the ship. They follow those hologramic ghosts until they found that one of them was I don't even know how to say this, decapitated by the door. They found the body, proving that their point was in fact correct. Like, this whole theory about cave paintings was actually correct. So yeah guys, next time after Elon Musk smokes another blunt and gonna decide to fly to Alpha Centaur because there was some shit in a cave, don't judge him, he might be onto something. Then turns out one of the side characters is an independent persona and he just says he's gonna get out of here because he doesn't want to do anything with the dead bodies of aliens. And okay, to be completely honest, the movie was more or less solid. Like, at least the mystery of them finding answers to those cave paintings were more or less interesting. But from now on, there's gonna be several arguments where people are just going to argue angrily for the purpose of arguing angrily. Like, okay, technically these guys arguing is gonna lead to them separating from the group right now, so later they can get lost. But this arguing he has looks really childish because they're not gonna have any kind of exchange afterwards. His speech is not gonna be remembered. He just overreacted like a child, and that's about it. Anyhow, those two goons leave, while the main characters somehow manage to open this literal chamber of secrets, by the way. But all of a sudden, the captain calls them from the main ship and tells them they gotta head back because the weather is getting bad, and if they don't come back, they're gonna be stuck in this cave. I also love how in both Prometheus and Covenant, Ridley Scott has the exact same sequence where characters cannot get to a specific place because of the bad weather. Characters, of course, head back on the way, grabbing the head of a decapitated alien to study it. Oh yeah, and here's another nitpick. The captain said that the storm will break their spacesuits because they're not strong enough or something, but there's a whole scene where Storm is blowing them away and no suit was broken. On the ship later, in a very slow and dramatic scene, they realize this head is actually a helmet, and the head inside of it looks like a human, therefore backing up their theory even more. Everybody acts really shocked, and okay, it would have been like a really cool plot twist if they didn't show us aliens in the first scene of the movie! And I wasn't really showing it because not showing it at least would have kept a consistent mystery, but like, it doesn't work. There is no mystery. We know from the first scene of the film that yes, aliens exist, aliens created humanity, that's it. Therefore, all those guesses of the main characters looks really stupid because they're questioning something we already know. And okay, I think this is a good point in the video to talk about the prequel aspect of the film. Because a lot of you are probably wondering now, wait a minute, how is this connected to an Alien? Like the movie where Alien infects you, bursts your chest, and then chases you around? Well, that's a good question, because pretty much the only thing we get that actually connects this movie to the very first Alien is this room with a telescope, like in the first movie. The spacesuit of aliens also looks pretty similar. We get something that looks like a xenomorph in the end credits, and that's pretty much it. And okay, don't get me wrong, the prequel is not supposed to explain everything, but okay, if nobody told you this was a prequel to Alien, would you guess? That's a good question. And okay, when I first saw this room and the alien suit, I thought they would tell us the very first story of how this room became the very first hive in Alien 1. But no, that doesn't really work, because chronologically in the timeline, David only creates facehuggers and the eggs of facehuggers and xenomorph only in Alien Covenant. Therefore, now they don't even exist yet, and he doesn't come back to this planet. So this planet is definitely not the one we're seeing in Alien. And second of all, the planet that we're seeing in Alien Covenant is not it either, because all of the engineers are dead off screen in between movies. So that means there wasn't anybody who can sit in the chair like we saw in Alien 1, nobody who could have recorded the message to avoid this planet at all costs. Bruh, I would have really screamed a lot right now, but everybody else at my house are sleeping now as I'm recording this. So, you see what I mean when I'm saying that Ridley Scott doesn't really care about the timeline consistencies. Also, if any of you are wondering why David created xenomorphs, like, why did he even need to do that? What is David's motivation overall? Here's an answer.
I kind of don't understand what exactly David's motivations were for creating them.
I think curiosity. And so I think he thought that both species should be done away with. Therefore, there was a new species to be evolved.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just kind of a lazy answer overall, because first of all, what kind of evolution is he talking about? When David created xenomorphs, they didn't evolve, he made them from scratch, basically, using mutagen. And on top of that, that makes xenomorphs kinda meaningless as a space race, because they're just created out of a spite of an android. And you know what's funny? There is more! That's not the end of stupidity. Okay, let's come back to the story. You see, these guys scanned the whole DNA of the alien and realize it looks oddly similar to human DNA. And apparently that news causes the character to become depressed. Like, okay, characters explain that is that they were planning on finding alive aliens so they can talk to them, and they're kind of upset they're all dead. But like, I mean, I don't know you guys, when I'm flying to a deserted planet and I don't see a huge-ass sci-fi alien city, I wouldn't be surprised that I wouldn't find any alive ones. However, you'll probably think that everything is going too well, right? Like, the movie kinda misses an antagonist. Well, like I said, David kinda goes crazy. And well, if you think that I just said that kinda randomly without a transition, is because the movie kinda also makes him evil without a transition. They showed to us that he yoinked one of the vases or something from that Chamber of Secrets, which had like glass bottles with some black goo in it. David for some reason didn't tell anybody about it, and as soon as he unlocked one of those bottles, he decided to fed it to one of the scientists. Again, why? For what reason? Nobody really cares about his motivation. He just kind of becomes evil out of nowhere. Like, you'd think he did it because he decided to rebel against humans because he was tired of serving them or something. But no, he still does everything he's told. He just decided to poison this guy randomly out of nowhere. He basically dropped some into the cup right in front of his eyes too. I don't know how he did not see David doing that, by the way. Like, are you telling me it would have been too hard to make a scene where he prepares the drink beforehand? By the way, remember how I said earlier those two goons are gonna split up from the main group? So yeah, turns out they're missing and nobody really cared because they cannot pick them up because of the bad weather anyway, so they stuck in the caves. These two geniuses, however, for some reason didn't just sit on their asses where it's safe. Instead, they started exploring caves even more, found a bunch of dead aliens, and thus returned to the Chamber of Secrets, where those vases started spilling mutagen everywhere for some reason. Again, if you're wondering why does this happen, what killed those aliens, you're not gonna get your answer. It's just happening. Anyway, the worms or something drank that mutagen and became basically large snakes. And after that, ladies and gentlemen, we can watch probably the dumbest death in sci-fi history. Because, like, what do you do when you see a snake on a space planet? Like, okay, whatever. What do you do when you see a snake on Earth? Like, you probably try not to touch it and back away from it, right? No, this guy just tries to pet it. Like it's freaking How to Train Your Dragon. Bruh, like, was it so hard just to make a scene where they see a snake, run away from it, it chases them and attacks them? Because, bruh, it attacked them and, like, they try to cut it, but turns out it has the acid blood like an alien. The rock scientist dies was actually a pretty horrific death because he first is sprayed with acid and then just falls into black goo, which looks pretty horrific. The other guy just dies sucking on a snake, that's pretty much it. Oh, and by the way, while all this was happening, Elizabeth Shaw was banging her husband. And the boss lady was banging a captain. What can I say? Alien prequels, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I don't know why movie decided to focus on sex all of a sudden. Like, I'm interested in what happened to those guys. Can we come back to them? The scene of begging, however, kinda leads to something because Elizabeth Shaw's husband becomes sick and the boss lady burns him thinking he got infection or something. While all this was happening, David was exploring on his own, and bruh, on his own he found way more than this whole group of scientists. This is in general kind of a weird part of world building because, like, why would anybody in the Alien franchise explore unknown planets by themselves when you have an android who can do everything safely and he cannot get sick or harm himself? Alright, so like I said, David was basically just pressing all buttons at random until he triggered another hologram, which told him exactly what he needed to do and opened a star map, revealing that this spaceship was heading straight to Earth originally, until something happened to the aliens. Alright, they would later explain that those bold aliens, engineers, used this planet as a military base, basically. So, therefore, question, why would engineers basically leave direct instructions on how to operate their spaceships and weapons that they keep there? And don't tell me nobody gonna use it because David uses this weapon to eliminate their whole city in the next movie. Anyway, after that movie kind of randomly cuts to Elizabeth Shaw, who apparently was knocked out when her husband was on fire. Upon waking up, David tells her that she is apparently several months pregnant, which is not possible. Not gonna lie, this reveal actually had me on the edge of the seat a little bit, because, like, it was more or less interesting what is inside of her. But unfortunately, the last part of the movie is kinda stupid because a bunch of random decisions are being made and it almost feels like the characters are making their decision by throwing dice on the board like in Dungeons and Dragons. For starters, once everyone found out that Elizabeth has some alien entity growing inside of her really, really rapidly, they decided not to take it out for some reason. Like, my first thought they would try to kill her as well to get rid of the thing that is inside of her, but no, not really. So she runs away to a medical pod that did cut this thing out of her, and it's an octopus, turns out. And on one hand, this is exactly the freaky shit I expected out of Alien prequel. On the other hand, why does it look like an octopus? Again, it's an alien planet, and the best designs you can come up with is human, but they look different, and sea creatures that look kinda different. It might sound like a nitpick, but keep in mind that these are the creatures that later gonna evolve into facehuggers and xenomorphs, and their designs look unique. So this feels at least kinda lazy in my opinion. Anyway, Elizabeth Shaw escapes and everybody's friendly with her like nothing happened. Also, everybody just forgets about this octopus that is locked in the medical pot. Like, everybody just ignores it until the very end of the film. We get another reveal that Valen, who at the beginning of the movie was stated to be dead, is actually alive, and he was on the ship this whole time. Turns out his plan was to fly on this planet, find creators of humans, and ask them to make him immortal. Yes, great plan after all. Bro, I don't know, this guy's dementia or something? David also says that he found an alive alien sleeping in the hibernation pod somewhere off screen. Elizabeth says that this is not what we expected when we came here. Nobody actually listens to her when she tries to warn everybody that it's probably not safe to go there. But everybody goes to this alien anyway, so she sticks around and goes there too. Then happens another cool but really weird scene at the same time. Because they wake up this alien, and he starts chatting with David. Little note, David learned their language based on the signs he saw on the walls in the cave, whatever. Everything was going fine until Valen for some reason asked this alien to make him immortal, which is a really weird request considering most of these aliens are dead on the ground. But Alien goes crazy! And I don't blame him. Like, imagine the situation from his perspective. You're woken up from the hibernation. Like, most likely there was some kind of biohazard situation before he went to sleep. He sees humans, and those humans just tell him, like, oh yeah, make me immortal. Like, I feel like even the 4th grader could have handled this situation better. Alright, at least, luckily, this is the end of a stupid part of the finale. The rest is more or less good. Alien starts to warm up his UFO, and everybody realizes that he's gonna fly straight to Earth. And, I don't know, probably gonna kidnap some cows there, explode some cities, that's why aliens fly to Earth, right? Because of that, Captain and the rest of the crew decide to fly through the UFO to sacrifice themselves and stop the alien from taking off. Boss Lady said she doesn't want to be the part of heroic sacrifice and just took off on the smaller ship. Elizabeth Shaw was meanwhile running, like, from the caves, remember? Because the ship was really far away from the mountain. I told you guys should have leaned closer. Because of that, we get kind of a goofy sequence, honestly. It's supposed to be breathtaking, but, like, the giant UFO just falls on Elizabeth and starts rolling, and she has to run in a straight line from it. Like, come on. You can run left or right. Of course, she survives, however, but the alien is not done. He is going straight to her, and they have a little fight. Alien, who is like 5 times bigger, stronger, should have just killed her instantly, but no, he was just throwing her, so she had a chance to escape. She is doing it by, like, luring him close to the medical room, which had the giant octopus there all along. Remember that guy? He kills him, and she walks away to a David, because he's the only one who can more or less control this UFO. And at the end of the movie, they go to another UFO, because apparently there's a few of them on this planet, and flies away, not home, but to the planet of engineers. And that's how the movie ends. Of course, we know that she will just die off screen because in Alien Covenant, which is a sequel to this movie, she is dead. Which is honestly upsetting because not only she was played by a charismatic actor, but at least like had a legit motivation, unlike these idiots in Alien Covenant. Alright, in conclusion, I don't really know what to say, because I remember when I first time watched this movie, I thought it was kinda stupid, but more or less, I really liked it. Like, the reveals, at least some of them were actually surprising. And even though I was hating it along the way, as a standalone movie, I'd say it works. But does it work as a prequel? And keep in mind, a prequel to one of the most iconic pieces of sci-fi media in history? Like, no, not really. Because like I said, we don't really know what happened on this planet before the characters got there. We know that engineers created humans. Okay, that part is answered. But it has to do with xenomorphs or something. Like, the part about xenomorphs is explained in Alien Covenant, like I said. But, like, the answer isn't satisfying either. In this movie, the only thing we get is a hint, which looks like that, by the way. And, like, that's the only scene at least hinting at xenomorphs that we get. This movie was definitely ambitious, I'll give him that, and it was definitely really, really pretty. Like I said, watching it was a pretty cool roller coaster ride. So if you want to see it, I mean, I spoiled the whole thing, but you can see it. The actors are definitely, like, having fun, I can see that. They're not boring to watch, so if you want to see it, go ahead. And I think that was it for today. Subscribe, tell me in the comments if you like this video, and see ya!